I'm scrolling through Twitter and I see these cute penguins. Being a brand builder for the last 7 or 8 years, I always look at NFTs as a supply and demand model. I thought penguins were the most universal PFP. And being the most universal has the widest net for demand because they're finite tokens. They have small token supplies. I thought the one that yields the most demand with the smallest token supply probably is going to have the most opportunity for a run. I believed in the brand and the penguin, so I started collecting a bunch. Unfortunately, it didn't go the same way as punks and apes early on, as Pudgy Penguins was one of those first projects that kicked off the big NFT bull run. 6 months later, the opportunity came around to buy it. Here we are today. I didn't really know what I was getting into. I think the math of the business made sense. At the time, all you had to do is just calculate the royalties, and the business was making $200,000 on a bad month. So I didn't think there was much risk. But in hindsight, understanding everything I know now, it was a really risky move, and I kind of did it a little unconsciously, but thankfully it worked out the way that it did. Naturally, I believe in myself, so I'm not rolling in money, so $2 million, $2.5 million in this case is not a small amount of money for me. And I knew instinctually, whether I logically understood it or not, that this was something that I needed to do. We joke about it all the time. We're super grateful and thankful for being in the situation that we're in today. It could have ended up a lot worse, and we're thankful that it didn't. We still have a long ways to go, so no victory laps yet. Still have a lot of the business to build. $2.5 million to the valuation we are today. It's a pretty awesome ride. The anchor that inspired me was the BoardApe raise. BoardApe had the highest valuation seed round of all time, basically 0 to 12 months, $4 billion company. The reason why I bought Pudgy is because I saw what they did, and I said, look, that stuff is not easy, especially now that I've built this thing. I saw what they did, and I said, there's nothing that they are doing that I can't do or that I can do better. I was like, if they were able to pull it off, this universal IP, I thought Pudgy Penguins had so many different places they could go that I think BoardApe couldn't. And understanding my skill set, understanding the people that I knew I was going to bring on board, I looked at the landscape and I thought, if they could do it, I know I can do it and do it better. Obviously, different market conditions, different times, but I'm very sure that when NFTs come back and are at the spotlight once again, we will take NFTs further than they've ever been in the past. So this was part of the plan, but exactly how it transpired, I can't tell you, but I knew it would go down the way that it did, but thankful it did nonetheless. I think it just comes down to the IP, like what makes sense with the IP. Like naturally, you close your eyes and you think Pudgy Penguins. I know I did 2.5 years ago, and I'm like, this is $1 billion IP business. I think a lot of people try to reinvent the wheel, whether making NFTs about metaverses or this and that. I think at its core, they are status symbols, they're Veblen goods, and they're collectibles. When I look at what makes a collectible valuable, I'm a huge collector in the real world. It's nostalgia, it's brand affinity, and how do you create that? You create that with product, you create that through content, and that just seemed like the obvious next step at the time. Now, hindsight is 2020. Every project is looking to build IP. Every project is looking to build affinity and love. When I came around, it almost felt like nobody was doing it. We subsequently kind of pioneered, though it was the thesis and it was the hot topic. These guys had hundreds of millions of dollars and they never did it. I'm not going to take credit for pioneering IP on the blockchain. That was a decentralized effort, but ultimately, what does it mean to brand build? What does it mean to build a real company leveraging these digital collectibles, leveraging these first editions? I will take credit for pioneering that because I think nobody was doing it the way that we're doing it today. I see the same opportunity in the L2 space that I saw in the NFT space. I look at the L2 space and there's nothing that anybody's doing that is super impressive to me or that I think I can't do better. Furthermore, we have a ton of products within the Igloo and the Pudgy Penguin ecosystem powered by L2's. And so I'm thinking to myself, I'm looking at the other L2s, I'm looking at, their theses and what they're doing, and I think there's, I'm not impressed, right? And they're not fulfilling the needs that I need as a consumer crypto builder. I'm looking at the future of crypto, and to me, the future of crypto is glaringly consumer. We've been the face of consumer crypto for the last 2.5 years, and it's like nobody knows the pain points, nobody knows the struggle, nobody knows the things that need to be solved for consumer crypto the way we do, because we've been building it longer than pretty much everyone else. The opportunity, I just think there's a fundamental error in the mindset and in the ethos and how all these L2s are building, and I'm very confident that we're going to do the same thing in the L2 space that we did in the NFT space, which is win and be the top dog. I have every intention in doing that, and I think we're also going to capture the entire consumer narrative. I think when you think consumer blockchain, who do you think of? Maybe Solana, but on EVM, it's a ghost town. Nobody's owning that consumer, and we're going to be the people to do it. A PFP is a great representation of understanding who somebody is without really knowing who somebody is. I can tell the difference, or I instinctually know the difference between like a BoardApe PFP and a Pudgy Penguin PFP. They're different personality types. In Pudgy Penguin's case, it's like a philanthropic evangelist kind of PFP where where if you're rocking it, I know you're probably a good person, probably funny, probably lighthearted. If you're specifically in crypto, I know you care about pushing crypto boundaries. I know you care about the underdog and what it means to take something from zero to hero. So there's a lot of things that Penguin embodies that makes it easily identifiable. And if you're a BoardApe, then I know you're cool and trying to be hip and in the streetwear scene. So it's like I can assign interest. For that reason, I think this is why these things are so powerful. It's more powerful than a lot of people give them credit for. I find myself being able to message somebody, or in the past, before I was the CEO of Penguins, like I would be able to message one of the top crypto traders because he was a Penguin, and he would respond to me because I was a Penguin PFP. I think this gives a huge edge, especially in an industry like crypto. Most people don't know this, but this is an alpha-driven industry. You either know what's going on or you're playing a 99% losing game. Alpha is given by tribes and community members, most easily identified by profile pictures. I think it opens up the ecosystem, and I want them to participate. I want them to bring that culture in. A lot of people wanted to name us Pudgy Chain, but ultimately I thought that was like a huge handicap. The number one L2 in the world, naturally, from a branding perspective, can't be Pudgy Chain. Like, I don't think that's, that doesn't incite people to go and build something bigger than Pudgy, which is like, I want somebody to give me a run for my money, especially on the abstract rails. I think from our perspective, I'm in the business of rewarding my early believers, right? So how can I create an ecosystem that benefits them, but they also have to reciprocate that value? I'm also not in the business of just like, hey, you buy something and you don't do anything for years and just reap all the rewards. I don't really like that type of cadence, but nonetheless, it doesn't change anything for them outside of, I think, just add tons of new opportunity to the ecosystem and just more and more benefits to their assets and what they're collecting. Not at all. So my situation specifically, I have zero worry because I issued no NFTs. Right, so I bought into something. So I think a lot of the problem is around the issuance. But other than that, it's a nothing burger. For the space in general, I don't really care. If you're going to go after OpenSea, you got to go after Sotheby's, you got to go after Nike. You got to go after Pokemon. You got to go after everyone. CGC. I mean, this is just nonsense at this point, right? Ultimately, there has to be some level of accountability in the space, which is this idea that if you buy something, whether you buy it at $100,000 or $1,000, like, you are making that purchase. That is your conscious decision. And at the end of the day, people are selling this stuff. They're JPEGs. You can misinterpret them 100 different ways, or you can try to have somebody sell you a bunch of different ways. But OpenSea specifically, I think it's in its own unique subsection where it's like not selling people on a false promise or a dream. And so for that reason, I'm not worried.